1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honey Bee.
Fun time, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. I am one of your hosts, Precious D.
And I am the other one of your hosts, Honey Bee.
Folks, you might hear some background noise today because there's a little bit of a thunderstorm happening right now while I'm recording.
Ooh, ASMR.
I wanted to follow up on the thing we mentioned last week about the Wicked dolls.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Walmart and I saw like a little Wicked crown or something, and I was like, oh, yeah, let me look, see if they have any of those. Nope, they were all gone. So I think they pulled them off the shelves. This was just like, the day or two after I heard about this, and I think they yanked them all off the shelves already. And they actually mentioned this story on the Saturday Night Live news on Weekend Update. Folks, let us know if you found any of these dolls out in the wild, but I think they're all gone off the shelves. If you didn't get them right away, they're probably recalled. Seems like they could have just sent out stickers to put over the back instead of having repackaged them all. Now, today's movie, this week's, is Mega Python versus Gateroid from 2011. And we might have to go back a year. I'll watch it first and decide, and watch Mega Piranha, I think it's called, which I didn't have on the list. I'll explain why in a moment. This is from the goddamn asylum.
If you couldn't tell by the title.
Right. It's 90 minutes. It's in color. It's in English. The budget was $500,000. There's no box office listed. I don't know if it had a limited. Occasionally one of these things will have a limited theatrical release, but I think this one went straight to Sci-Fi Channel. Let's see. Written by Naomi Selfman and directed by Mary Lambert. And the cast is Debbie Gibson as Dr. Nikki Riley. She's back playing another doctor. Another criminal doctor. Tiffany as Park Ranger Terry O'Hara. I think we mentioned Tiffany the last time we talked about Debbie Gibson, so we'll explain her in a moment if you don't know who she is. A. Martinez as Dr. Diego Ortiz. Catherine Justin as Angie. Primetime Emmy winner Catherine Justin as Angie. Kevin M. Horton as R.J. Coupelli. Mickey Dolans as himself. Carrie Van Dyke as Justin, Arden Cho as Gia, Patrick Hancock as Ben, Kristen Wilson as Barbara Fine, Vanessa Claire Smith as Mary, Contrary Mary, it says in quotes, Chris Neville as Manny, Jay Byers as Martin, Martin, also in quotes, I don't remember that at all, Harmony Blossom as Girl at the Party, Kawi Lyman as Tom, Kaylin James as Jordan, Timmy McFoon as Morgan, Jeff Dujardin as Jack, Jack N. Harding as Hank. I know a Jack Harding, but he's not professionally known as Jack N. Harding, so I don't think that's him. Robert R. Schaefer as Zeke and Travis Seaborn as Jackson. Jack Harding is a childhood friend who, last I knew, was in L.A. doing, trying to do film work. So it's not inconceivable that it's him, but I don't believe he goes by Jack N. Harding. Maybe he's the reason this guy has to put an N in his name.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't know. My ceiling is dripping right now, folks. Just trying to make sure it's dripping on that shit. Important. Honeybee, initial thoughts on Mega Python versus Gatoroid?
Well, it is all that is Asylum. I was very surprised and happy to see Dr. Riley. I still think she's a fox, although I don't like her character as much in this film as I did Mega Shark. Yeah, it was just about as awful as you probably think it is.
So, yeah, it's terrible. So, Tiffany Renee Darwish, for those of you who don't know, who performed anonymously as Tiffany, was a pop singer in the 80s, contemporary to Debbie Gibson, which is why I think we mentioned her the last time we did a Debbie Gibson movie. And she was in Mega Piranha in 2010. And apparently it was her suggestion. There was a public perception of them having a rivalry at the time. Apparently the two of them didn't actually care about this, but, you know,
Oh,
in the
that's
press and popular
hilarious.
culture, because they were, you know, about the same age, doing similar kind of music. I don't know. I don't think they either hung out together or had a beef with each other. They were just each kind of doing their own thing and weren't worried about it. But because of this perception of this rivalry, Tiffany actually suggested that they should do a movie together. I don't have any details about, was she offered this role and said, hey, why don't you get, you know, because I know she also did an asylum film. I don't know the details of how that came about, but apparently it was Tiffany's idea that they be in this movie together. And so that is played up throughout the movie. There's also a line in it that is a reference to one of the Tiffany's big hit, is I Think We're Alone Now. I wasn't sure if you were old enough, Honeybee, to remember or to be aware of any of this. I don't think you were born when that song came out.
I wasn't, but I
that's
do
really
love it.
Yeah, so that's kind of the whole point of this movie, is just to have Tiffany and Debbie Gibson have a cat fight in the water at one point in this movie, and to just act like a couple of bitches towards each other constantly. And just be a couple of unpleasant lunatics whose fault this entire thing is. All right, I guess we'll get into the plot here. I got a plot from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. A group of animal activists consisting of Dr. Nikki Riley, Gia, and Ben breaks into a house and steals dozens of exotic pythons before setting them free into the Florida Everglades. Okay, so Debbie Gibson is once again playing a doctor who begins the movie by committing a crime before we have any idea who she is, what her deal is. She's
Someone's being typecasted.
Right, yeah, and it's such a ridiculous crime too, because she is a doctor of, I guess, zoology. Pythons are an invasive species in Florida. They should not be rescued and released into the wild. If you want to confiscate them from a private home, if the authorities want to confiscate them from a private home and then put them in a zoo or something, or just kill the motherfuckers, that's one thing, but it's really irresponsible. Florida has a huge problem with these ones. They're not natural they're upsetting the ecosystem, and it's a big problem. And she's just making it worse by releasing them because she's got some weird idea of nature and not acknowledging that, well, them being there isn't natural. She's just kind of like, they're the top of the food chain. It's perfectly fine if they are an invasive species and wreck the local ecosystem because they're at the top of the food chain and it is their right. It's some kind of weird Ayn Rand objectivist view of zoology, of just like, you know, it first of all, and they're not really the top of the food chain. Well, they're top of a food chain, I guess, but they're not the ultimate predator or anything. Humans are at the top of the food chain. Anyway, it just pissed me off. She's just clearly a...
No, and there's a few different times, too, where she tries to make, like, a few different arguments about this, and every time it's stupid and doesn't make sense. And I was just like, what are you doing? Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
But also, I feel like
what is your doctorate in?
Yeah, but I kind of feel like Terry's character also sucks, and, like, even... I don't know, they both just kind of sucked, which I guess is kind of funny. I wonder if they... We're like, you know, it'd be funny is if we did this movie together, or if it was like, ooh, we should do a movie together, and it was written around them to fight. I don't know.
Well, clearly parts of it were written for them, but I have no idea how much of it was written ahead of time. All Wikipedia tells me under production is that it was Shot in Los Angeles, not Florida. Some of the film's footage was recycled from Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus, but I didn't. And I read that ahead of time, and I didn't see. It wasn't clear to me what parts. I guess some of the crocodile effects or something. I don't know.
I know that there is one part in the movie, and I have it written down in my notes, where there is a real crocodile, like a stock footage moment for like a second.
Their actions inadvertently cause the snakes to grow into alarming sizes and threaten the ecosystem as they kill over 72 alligators in a matter of days. But what did they do that caused... To me, it just seemed like they were growing for no apparent reason.
Yeah, I just like they like the girls sneak in, they're stealing the snaky snakes. They like flip a cop car, they release the snaky snakes. The next thing I remember is the snakes eating a dog, and of course it's this huge CGI snake that looks just fucking terrible. Mm-hmm. But I don't know why the snakes themselves were growing. I never got that. I thought maybe they were like regular size snakes until the crocodiles started growing and then they got bigger. But I honestly, I don't know what the reason for the snakes being outrageously big is.
I mean, there's a reason later, but they start getting too big. I mean, there are cases of pythons trying to eat crocodiles, but it tends to be more than they can. They tend to burst. I've seen pictures.
Well, and also these pythons, for whatever reason, when they kill people, like some of them are just like, I guess, biting people's limbs off and spitting them out because, like,
not how they work.
Exactly. Like, obviously, a snake is going to swallow something whole, and a lot of times when we see, like, these people die, they're like, you know, arms and legs and heads are bitten off, and it's like, okay.
Let's see. Due to the threat of the invasive species, Park Ranger Terry O'Hara issues permits to the local hunters to exterminate the pythons. I had my note here on when Terry shows up. I wrote unprofessional skirt,
but then they ended up
in mini skirt.
It looks like a skirt at first, but then if you like watch her, they're actually really short shorts. Because I thought, because I thought it was a skirt too, and I also had that note. And then like in a few minutes, she like takes a few steps from another angle. You can tell that they're just very short black shorts.
Then that makes a little more sense for a park ranger to be in shorts.
But in the swamp,
maybe a little too short. Yeah. But for her to, because I thought it was a mini skirt, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? She's not only is that too short for work, but it's impractical for her specific job. But if it's shorts, then I'll let it go. They were still...
Yeah, they were very short.
Let's see. She issues permits, much to Nikki's dismay, it says here.
But when she comes out and she's just like literally like yelling at all of these hunters that she's going to arrest people out here for the sake of the ecosystem, and the gator population is down because of the snakes, so no permits. But I'll tell you one thing that I hated more than the CGI in this movie is the swamp people, the hunters. God, I did not like these people at all.
They're just a bunch of dumbasses.
The way they're played, I just, gosh.
I can't remember who. I think it's Tiffany. No, I mean, I think it's Debbie Gibson. It says something about pheromones. Mm-hmm. And one of the hunters is like, pheromones? What's that? And I'm like, come on. Hunters know what pheromones are because they use them to try to lure prey. Come on.
Yeah, the hunters, like, it's kind of played as if, this is how I imagine people who have never been to Florida or have never been to, like, a swampy area think people are like. Kind of, if you ask someone in a different state, what do you think of when you think of people from Texas? And then they would kind of like overplay and make fun of us because they think we're all like riding our horses to school and shit. Kind of like that. That's how I feel about these hunters. Like, these are not real people. This is what you think people like this are like, and it sucks and it's stupid and I hate it. Like, they're just so dumb.
There are horses just down the block from me, but...
yeah, okay, sure,
don't
but...
ride them to school.
Yeah, or like everyone thinks that everyone in Texas owns a pair of cowboy boots. You know what I mean? It's just... But I I don't know. I just really hated the hunters and how they were played and how they make all these jokes. Like when he's like, oh, you hunting a big snake? It's in my pants. You want to see it? You know, or like the other guy's like, oh, I've seen a few of these in Thailand. My wife's family is from there. And then the other guy's like, he's got one of them mail order wives. I'm just like, my God, shut the fuck up. I really hated them.
The hunters themselves, including Terry's fiance, Justin, are quickly eliminated by the giant snakes, which is also just not how pythons work.
Yeah.
I don't think they normally attack humans, but if they did, the thing is they get a thing and they swallow it, and then they kind of crawl off somewhere to digest it slowly over time. They're not just attack everything, you know.
Rip it to shreds.
They're not killing just for the joy of killing.
I will say, though,
avenge.
There's this moment where Terry is like talking to her boyfriend, and she says something about a color scheme for their wedding, and then instantly after that, there is like a snake part, so they play this horror music, like this scary, like ooh music, and I was like, this music is perfect. This is exactly the kind of music that plays in my head when someone says color scheme for a wedding. Just terrifying, scary music.
Vowing to avenge her fiance's death because she's a dumbass and takes it personally that these animals killed her fiance. They're fucking animals. Terry and Angie take boxes of anabolic steroids from Angie's grandson, Manny, and inject them into dead chickens before feeding them to alligators. So this is where she becomes a total dumbass. Angie was the best part of this movie. She's the one I mentioned.
She was.
Emmy Awards from her work on The West Wing, I believe. She was great. I loved her.
She was great. I also loved her. But before this happens, Terry's boyfriend, like, even saves Dr. Riley from a python about to fucking snatch her right up.
Yeah,
and she's still, she gets so mad about it. I'm like, what?
And I thought, and these guys just, I thought that was going to be the romance, right? They have this encounter, not exactly a meet cute, but I thought, okay, they're going to interact with each other and develop a relationship. And nope, he's already engaged to the other one, and he doesn't make it past the first part of the movie.
And he saves her ass, and she's like, you murderer! It's like, what?
Yeah.
Then when he does finally see his fiance and he kisses her, one of the disgusting men is like, kiss her like a real man, put your tongue down her throat. I'm like, Jesus H. Christ.
Among the steroids is an experimental serum that neutralizes muscle growth inhibitors with a side effect of increased aggression. So that does explain why later things just start chomping on stuff. So I think this is why, I don't know why the pythons got so big in the first place, but once the alligators get big and then the pythons eat the alligators, once they have the steroids and the experimental thing and the pythons eat them, then they've eaten the drug and they get bigger. And then the alligators eat them and they get bigger. And they both just keep getting bigger and bigger because the drugs get stronger. It doesn't really make sense because with each progressive eating, I would think that the effect would become diluted. But instead, things just keep getting bigger and bigger until they're full-blown kaiju size.
Yeah.
Also, the title of this movie, it should be multiple mega pythons versus multiple just alligators. They're not Gatoroids. Mega pythons versus mega alligators. I
don't know either.
Meanwhile,
but it is horrible.
Meanwhile, Nikki and her group set up cameras all over the Everglades to monitor Terry's activities. Just 'cause. They catch and record Terry and Angie feeding the steroid-laced chickens to the alligators. They catch them feeding chickens to the alligators. There's no proof on the video that there's steroids in there. Several months later, Terry meets Dr. Diego Ortiz, who warns her
Jesus.
an all-out war between the giant pythons and the mutated alligators in the Everglades has begun. Did you not care for Dr. Diego Ortiz?
I didn't mind him, I guess. I just kind of hate how it's like, here, like the way that he is. I feel like the way they're trying to make him seem like he's this like Indian witch doctor, this Appalachian from this Appalachian Indian tribe.
Right.
And I don't know. I just didn't really love it. But right before this is one of the arguments that Dr. Riley makes where she's like, people are dying and it's all this woman's fault. And I'm like, how is it the lady's fault who's trying to get rid of the snakes who are killing people? They're like eating people. I never understand her argument throughout this movie. And I know it's because it doesn't make sense, but it's over and over and over again that it doesn't make sense. And I just hate it. I hate it.
Yeah. They, when Diego comes in, he does seem like he's putting off some kind of shaman vibe, but then that doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And how come at one point it's like, he just shits out a helicopter and then is piloting it? Like, where did you get how the fuck? What the fuck? Did I miss something here?
Well, you know, the asylum loves their helicopters. I guess they're cheap to rent, or maybe they just own one. I don't know. After seeing a python and an alligator battle each other, Diego urges Terry to cancel a fundraising event that is to be held that night to help restore a nearby estuary. But his cries fall on deaf ears. As Nikki and her group walk around the forest to plant pheromones, again with the pheromones, I'm not sure what she was doing this for, though. Where is she trying to get them to go? They discover the skeleton of a dead python before they are attacked by a giant alligator, which eats Gia. In another part of the Everglades, Diego discovers that the alligators have laid hundreds of eggs, all of which are 20 to 30 times their normal size. This was so... Jesus. So he drops a rope ladder. Excuse me. He drops a rope ladder from the helicopter, and she gets on it and just fucking leaves Ben behind. She doesn't start climbing up it to give Ben room to get on, and Ben gets chomped. And then she does this again later in the movie. It just pissed me off. He offers to fly her to the nearest hospital, that's Diego, but she tells him to bring her to her office immediately. After dropping her off, he returns to the site of the alligator eggs and destroys them with a pack of dynamite. He then
By the way, at this point...
thousands more eggs.
At this point of the movie, there's 40 more minutes left. Like, it's just... It happens for way too long. Yeah. So bad.
Yeah, and I think the movie, what did I say, it's 90 minutes, I think, but it feels a lot longer. And this summary is very long. So he finds a cave filled with thousands more eggs and calls Terry, telling her that if she does not evacuate the party nearby, he will call the governor and have him send the National Guard to the quarry.
Which I don't understand. Okay, I don't understand why Terry is even doing the fundraising event, because her boyfriend was killed and eaten, which is one of the coolest parts, is her like hearing the walkie-talkie buzz in the snake, and then she like stabs the snake and the walkie-talkie falls out. Like, that was a pretty cool moment. But this just happened, and right. She's just acting like it never... why would you put on this fundraiser? I don't get it. Everything in this movie pisses me off. Yeah. I just really don't get, like, how you could pretend that nothing is wrong and you're still gonna do this. And she says something like, I think Justin would have liked this, or like, no, bitch, no, get the fuck out of here. I just really, just so annoying.
So backing up a little, at one point when she's arguing with Diego, there's this lady who's part of the fundraising effort, and Diego's saying you got to cancel the fundraiser, and the lady's going, wait, I have to go to the airport and pick up a monkey. We're having a monkey here for this fundraiser, and what do you mean it's canceled? She's like, no, it's not canceled, don't pay any attention to him. And she's like, well, I've got a monkey on the way, and I got to go get this monkey. And she's like, okay, whatever. Well, it turns out this is so that's important because of what's about to happen. At the fundraising event, Nikki shows up at the VIP tent uninvited, threatening to blackmail Terry with a disc containing footage of her feeding the alligators. This leads to a fight between the two women that destroys the party. Meanwhile, as Nikki and Terry continue their fight in the swamp, the reptiles crash the event. devouring the guest of honor, Mickey Dolenz. So in the VIP tent is for, so the Mickey Dolenz, ladies and gentlemen, is a member of the band The Monkees, in case any of you are not aware of this. Honeybee, were you aware of this? Do you know the Monkees? Please tell me you know the Monkees.
I know the Monkees, but I was not aware of it. Like, I knew who they are only because you've told me. Because didn't they, like, have a TV show or something that you've told me about?
Yes, they were a band that was created for a TV show. But then they went on to have, a career beyond the life of the TV show. And they're great. You know some of their songs because you at least know I'm a Believer because they used it in Shrek. They covered it in Shrek. Anyway, she bring the lady with the, going to pick up the monkey. She comes in the VIP tent and she's like, "Hey, I'd like you to meet Mickey Dolenz." And then Debbie Gibson's like, "Oh, this is how a monkey was going to save the Everglades." So it's meant to be a joke. She was talking about picking up one of the monkeys, but of course you wouldn't say it. You would say Mickey Dolenz is coming in. You wouldn't say, "I got to pick up a monkey at the..." Anyway, for some reason, Mickey Dolenz is in this movie playing himself. And he's like, "Yeah, where's my trailer?" And like, "We have this VIP tent that's just for you." So he hangs out there and he acts like a little bit of a dick, a little bit of a spoiled celebrity, but not a complete asshole. And while all this chaos is breaking out, he's on the stage. There's a band behind him. And he says, "Okay, folks, this first song is a big hit we had back in the 60s. Chomp, a giant python just comes down from the sky and completely chomps Mickey Dolenz." So there you go. Who, by the way, is the sole surviving monkey at this juncture. I was supposed to see Mickey Dolenz and Mike Nesmith at the Wagner Noel around 2020. So yeah, well, they canceled that show because of COVID, but they didn't cancel every show. So it seems like they were going to insist on some strict rules regarding masks and testing and whatnot. And the venue probably was like, "We're not going to get people around here to agree to that." This is my guess, because I know there was other shows on the tour that did not get canceled. So, I had tickets. And then Mike Nesmith passed away shortly after. I lost my chance to see two of the Monkees. Now there's only one left. Anyway, except that Mickey Dolenz was killed by a giant python in 2011. So he gets devoured, and several other partygoers. But at one point, when it's clear the monsters are coming to attack, Diego's, I think, is the one that says, "If anybody's got a gun, get it now, arm yourselves." And every person at the party whips out a gun of some kind. Some of them are pistols, some of them are rifles or shotguns. Everybody's got a gun, including like the valet. So, which I guess, it seems like a Texas joke to me, but I guess it applies in Florida also. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Florida is like a Texas with swamps.
Terry's friend Barbara Fine manages to survive and escape. Okay. I think that was the lady that was picking up Mickey Dolenz. Realizing that they will have to work together to stop this threat, Nikki and Terry, along with Angie and Diego, drive to Miami to get help and prevent the reptiles from invading the city. But are too late, and Angie is devoured by a python as they flee from the city. No, not Angie.
No, Graham, we love you. Oh, and I love how the next part, they're like, "Watch out for that nuclear facility, LOL.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Okay, sorry, I was looking at my notes here. Let me back up a little. I wrote down, somebody had bitch for breakfast. That's also one of my notes as well. And before that too, before they have the bitch for breakfast line, they're both in their cars and they're driving and they almost hit each other and both of them are like, "Bitch," which was really funny as well. Yes, we need a bigger gator, which I guess is sort of a Jaws reference. When they're getting ready to dose the crocodiles, the alligators, Tiffany says, "What could go wrong? Come on." I also wrote, "Fuck Ben," I guess. That was from the helicopter rescue. And that Monkee being Mr. Dolan's was a long walk for the joke. And Debbie Gibson and Tiffany both have songs in the soundtrack.
Nice.
Like new songs written for this movie that they either wrote. One of them wrote the song, one of them co-wrote her song. And then I have worst speech ever. So when Tiffany gets up to give her speech about the fundraiser, it was awful. And then I have Mickey Dolenz, no. Everyone is armed. Valet throws a shoe. The valet's gun runs out of bullets and he throws a shoe. And then there's the part where they've been fighting and then they stop fighting and then in the middle of the swamp. And then Tiffany says, wait, I think we're alone now.
There doesn't seem to be anyone around. Yeah.
Yes. So that's from, and I was waiting for it. Then I've got mall. They say something about the mall. Well, I think both of them started their careers, definitely Tiffany, performing at malls. So I think that was on purpose. And we see an asylum blimp that gets chomped by one of the monsters. And then Diego at one point says that gators can't see straight ahead.
Yeah, I also wrote that down and I wrote, is that true?
Right. I looked it up while the movie was on. I'm like, that doesn't seem true. And they can see straight ahead. They have a blind spot like directly in front of their noses, but they can see straight ahead. So, I mean, they're predators. Most predators need to be able to see in front of them. So that is not true. Let's see. Back to the summary. They drive to Miami, to Angie's Devoured. Yes, so that's my note. Old lady, no. Nikki comes up with a plan to save Florida. She plants explosives in the quarry while Terry and Diego fly over Miami in a crop duster and spray pheromones they acquired from Nikki's office. Lure it because she's all about the pheromones. They have a whole argument, too, about which of them's going to go get the pheromones and which is going to plant the explosives and just still being bitchy while they're in this plane or while they're in the helicopter heading towards the plane. However, when they're they're in the car at this point, but she's like, can't you're a pilot, right? Let's just go get a plane. However, when the plane crashes on the highway after being hit by a python, Terry takes the remaining bottles of pheromones and drives an abandoned car to lure the reptiles away. Diego's caught in the plane for a while. It looks like he's going to die, but he doesn't. Sorry, to lure the reptiles away from the Turkey Point nuclear power plant. Back in the cave, Nikki finds herself surrounded by an alligator and hundreds of hatchlings.
And at this point, I'm like, well, what happened to top of the food chain, Miss Lady? Huh?
Yeah.
Suck it up, princess. This is your fate. This is what you wanted.
Terry rescues her by driving her car with a lit container of gasoline towards the alligator. Yeah, she just jumps out at the last minute. Surrounded by the remaining reptiles around the quarry, the two women lock themselves inside a supply shed where Nikki admits to Terry that she released the snakes into the Everglades, to Terry's disgust. Diego arrives in a rescue helicopter, again with the helicopters, and picks up Nikki. This is where I wrote Nikki first up the ladder again, but it's too late to save Terry, who's caught by an alligator and devoured. So Terry, who was the alligator advocate, is eaten by an alligator, with Nikki and Diego helpless to save her. Nikki blows up the quarry, killing all of the reptiles in sight, but the explosion rocks the helicopter, throwing her off as she falls into the swamp. The helicopter circles back for Nikki while pieces of pythons and alligators rain around her. I kept thinking one of them was going to hit her. And she is eaten by a python head that is still alive, and in parentheses it says, as snakeheads can survive for up to an hour.
Which they do say earlier.
I don't think I caught that. Yeah, right. I don't think I caught. Yes, the guy's talking about how you need to cut their head off and then, or grab them, break the neck and then smash the head, or cut the head off and then smash it. When he's telling the deputy, not deputy, he's ranger. They're all park rangers.
The one with frosted tips.
Kill snakes. 1 year after the incident, Diego cuts a ribbon to inaugurate the O'Hara-Riley Estuary, named in memory of Terry and Nikki, which is bullshit. He's like, these two heroes died saving Florida. I'm like, it was their fucking fault. They created the mess. You don't erect a monument to the Exxon Valdez on the site of the oil spill that they later paid to clean up. That's not how this works. So I just thought this was straight up bullshit. They weren't heroes. They were a couple of fucking idiots who just sort of barely fixed the problem that they created, but only after lots of people died and a lot of damage was done.
And they hated each other so much. Imagine how pissed off they would be. Like,
yes, I'm sure
that they were etched
right.
in, like, right next to each other.
Their ghosts are standing there going, God damn it. My name is forever next to yours for all of eternity.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both burning in hell together, so I guess they're looking up at the at this monument.
One other part that we kind of skimmed over that I really fucking hated was when Diego first, shows up in the film. He's like walking around and he's like touching a tree. He's like, these plants seem aggressive. The animals, they're getting bigger. And I was like, shut the fuck up. The plants seem aggressive. Get the fuck out of here, bro.
The film soundtrack features the song Snake Charmer by Debbie Gibson and Serpentine by Tiffany. I thought Snake Charmer was the better of the two songs, and I appreciated that it used the Snake Charmer tune, the original riff. It's also known as? Yes. That one exactly. Serpentine, I was like, the way you're using that word, I don't think it means what you think it means. Man, so I don't know if I even need to ask this, but Honeybee, what are you going to rate Python versus Gatoroid?
Well, I thought it was a steaming pile of shit. I'm just going over my notes to see if there was anything that we missed. Oh my gosh, there's this one part where one of the gators is being attacked by a snake, and it kind of grabs it by the throat and pulls it back, and you see the gator's like tiny little hands come out of the water, and I fucking lost it. It was so funny because it's just this huge alligator pulled backwards, and then he just has these tiny little hands that he's like waving around like, help me. It was so funny. What else? Yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, I don't even want to give it a 1, but I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, I guess I'll give it a 1 rather than 1/2. I mean,
Yeah.
Mickey Dolenz was in it, but he didn't get to sing. So that was, what's the point? Of course, maybe they would have had to pay extra to actually use a Monkee song.
It wasn't in the budget.
Yeah. We got the budget for Mickey, but not.
Look, we can either have a song or we can have a helicopter. What do you want?
The song, please. Honeybee, I urge you to get on Spotify and just listen to Monkee's playlist.
All right.
I don't know if their TV show is streaming anywhere, but I really love the Monkees. Their general perception is that they're kind of a Beatles ripoff.
Right.
In fact, the Beatles were called the Fab Four, and the Monkees were often derisively referred to as the Prefab Four because they were prefabricated. They were manufactured.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And the thing is, the typical plot of a Monkees episode, or the structure of a Monkees episode, is a little similar to the Beatles movie Help. So, yeah, just a lot of nonsense and running around and stuff. So they're definitely inspired by the Beatles, but they ended up really becoming their own thing. And for the show, originally there was a bunch of songs written for them by other people, but they did two of them were musicians already, and the other two were actors who knew how to sing. And they eventually started creating their own music. And I don't know, I don't want to turn this into a Monkees podcast, but I'm just saying the Monkees are actually a good band. They did try reviving it in, I can't remember, 80s or 90s. They had the new Monkees, and it did not. You've never heard of them.
Definitely haven't.
It was not as good. They weren't as good. The music was not as good. It just didn't work. But it was the same thing. Let's just create a band. And all right, that's enough for this piece of shit movie.
Did you say you were gonna? Did you say you were gonna give it 1 star?
I'll give it 1. Yes, 1, because Mickey Dolenz is worth at least a 1/2 star just by himself.
Yeah, it really sucked. There were just a few little parts that I liked, and you know what I really liked that we didn't talk about too, that I just remembered? The at the end one of the pythons is so big, it just swallows an entire train. Like the train is coming down the track.
That's right.
And it just opens its mouth and just eats the whole train. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I really liked that. The walkie-talkie, the train, at one point, what was it? The snake skin, like there's like a really big skin as if the python had just shed. I thought that was pretty cool. So there were a few little moments where I was like, ooh, that's cool, but not enough to make this movie good. I was excited to see What's Her Nuts as Dr. Riley, too. I was like, oh, yay, her. And then she sucked, and I was like, oh, man. Not like as an actor, but just the character really sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, she did a fine job playing a total bitch.
Yeah.
An insane total bitch.
Exactly.
Next week's movie will be Super 8.
Fuck yeah.
Which is not a movie about 8 people with superpowers. It refers to a film stock. 8mm film.
Hell yeah, brother. I am excited about that.
Yes, so that's a real movie, ladies and gentlemen, by real filmmakers. So, thank you for joining us, folks. If you, for some reason, want to watch this terrible movie, it's streaming on all of the usual places.
I don't recommend
Until
it.
next time, I have been Precious D. No,
And
I've been Precious D.
And I've been Honeybee.
Remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements.
And please, don't misuse science.
Which was very much done in this movie.
Yeah, god damn it.
We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go.
Bye.
You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please consider rating and reviewing us on your podcasting platform of choice. You can leave us a message and find links to all our things at mmftg.com.